welcome to both of you. Dr. Yampolsky, welcome back to Uncensored. I want to start with a clip of something I've referenced a lot when I talk about this verbally, but I haven't shown the clip much. This is Professor Stephen Hawking in 2017, so this was 9 years ago, when I did one of the last television interviews he ever gave before he died. And I asked him about AI and about what was the biggest threat to mankind. Let's take a look. Is artificial intelligence going to be the end of us? And if it's not, how do we best work with it?
Ever since the start of the Industrial Revolution, there have been fears of mass unemployment as machines replaced humans. Instead, the demand for goods and services has risen in line with the increased capabilities. Whether this can continue indefinitely is an open question, but there is a greater danger from artificial intelligence if we allow it to become self-designing, for then it can improve itself rapidly, and we may lose control.
So that, it seems to me, Dr. Yampolsky, goes right to the heart of this, really, whether humans can maintain control over AI. The benefits of AI are obvious. We see them more and more, faster and faster every day. I'm sure that in things like medical science and so on, there are going to be enormous, very rapid strides made in curing diseases at the moment that are incurable and so on. But, and it's a crucial but, if we let the genie out of the bottle, if we lose control, would it, as Professor Hawking there warned 9 years ago now, would it be the beginning of the end of mankind?
He was a very smart man. I think he got it. We use the same term AI to refer to tools we have today, narrow, useful systems, to human-level agents we're starting to create, and unfortunately to super-intelligent AI we expect to have once this cycle of self-improvement begins. Those are very different technologies. I completely support using advanced tools for science, for health, tremendous benefits of this technology, and humans decide how to use them, we remain in control. Once we get to human-level capabilities, the process of doing science and engineering and designing those systems becomes automated. You have recursive self-improvement, which will quickly lead to superintelligence. I think it's impossible to indefinitely control something smarter than all of us combined.
Yeah, Joshua Bart, welcome to Uncensored. I mean, we've got apparently the Pope Leo is next week going to make this subject the subject of his first papal encyclical letter. Magnifica Humanitas will be released next week, and according to the Vatican, its theme will be safeguarding the human person in the time of artificial intelligence. You know, a lot of people think this is all the beginning of the end, that it, rather like with chess computers that started off, you know, massive and were beaten by grandmasters, human grandmasters, and now, of course, nobody can beat a chess computer, and they're tiny. That they assume that at some stage AI will just take over and view us all as utterly useless. I believe you're slightly more optimistic. Why?
At the moment, we don't have AI as it existed in the horrible science fiction stories. What we have are statistical text generators and some multimodal models that can help us with image recognition and generation of media. But it's not clear if these models automatically become self-improving. At the moment, the AI companies are working very hard at getting these models to a level where they approach the capabilities of human experts, and the models are at the moment below this. They are, in some sense, idiot savants. They have read everything. They can supply with any kind of knowledge when they don't hallucinate. But if you are really competent in a particular area, you notice that these models are not yet very good at being creative, original, and on point. This might change. It's not clear if the present approach is leading to a plateau or if we need a completely new approach if we ever want to solve the problem of artificial general intelligence. But even then, it's not clear if there is going to be some kind of rapid takeoff or if this is bound to the amount of computers available, which has been growing quite slowly over the years. And in some sense, the capabilities of the system that we are seeing are compatible with Moore's law, with the fact that we only slowly ramp up the abilities of such systems. And we also remain so far in charge. We can tune them in such a way that they can be helpful for us. And the bigger question I think that we are facing in the near term is how we can our societies adapt, how we can deal with a world in which more people have agency. I suspect that we might be heading for a future that is somewhat better than most people believe, that we are not going for a future where we have universal basic income, but universal basic intelligence, where basically everyone gets to a level of competence. And the question is this achievable if the AI is coming centralized, top down from the governments or from a handful of oligopoly companies that are tightly regulated, or do we need to have bottom up AI where every individual has access to a machine that serves them? And for me, the question is, what artificial intelligence do we want to build for our children so we can make it safe, that we can make it wholesome, and we allow AI to serve people to solve problems, to process information better, to make better sense of the world and the future.
Okay, so Dr. Jan Polsky, in March 2026, creators of a so-called doomsday clock at the IMD Business School in Lausanne, Switzerland, which is monitoring our relentless, possibly reckless pursuit of uncontrolled AI, say we're now 18 minutes away from AI midnight. Now, 2 years ago, it was 26. So they seem to be thinking we're heading for the doomsday scenario pretty quickly, the doomsday scenario being where we lose control. And that seems to me the real question here. And I think in relation to what Joshua Bart just said, the key thing to me is whether the people that are trying to maintain the control or regulate the control have good intentions or bad intentions. I mean, it's a little bit like the debate about nuclear weapons, right? I mean, we know they can obliterate the entire planet very quickly, and you're reliant on people that don't have nefarious design on the use of nuclear power to stop that happening. But how can we be sure that there aren't people right now who, for nihilistic reasons, are trying to get AI to a place where it self-designs?
Well, we can't, but it's a very different problem. We are not dealing with tools. Even nuclear weapon is a tool in the hands of some crazy dictator. What we are creating here are agents, a replacement for humanity, artificial scientists. I think the progress is actually quite strong, maybe exponential. I think the systems are improving about 25% annually. And if you just project the same improvement we saw over the last 5 years or so, we'll cross the human level barrier. And so at that point, no one has a working safety mechanism in place. No one has any idea how to control something smarter than us indefinitely. I think it's kind of very ambitious to say that we'll create something with IQ equivalent of 1,000 to 1,000,000, but this human will be in charge of it.
Joshua Bach, I mean, we're seeing on a day-to-day basis, we're seeing a lot of companies downsizing because robots and AI are beginning to consume a lot of the work that was done by human beings. I don't see any way that doesn't massively accelerate in the next 10 to 20 years. What are people going to do if automation, AI, robots, whatever? I mean, Elon Musk is bringing his Optimus in. He thinks, I've talked to him about it myself, and he was showing me the videos of these things dancing around and saying everyone's going to want one. There'll be $20,000 each. Some people who've got money will want 10, and they'll do every possible domestic chore you could wish to have. And presumably, if you run a company which manufactures anything, you're going to have them doing all that as well. Where do humans fit into this world? And what happens if we just get displaced before AI can self-design? But what happens if we just become kind of redundant?
It's not clear that we ever become redundant. In the past, we had a lot of technological revolutions that made many jobs obsolete. And strangely, there were always more jobs. It's not like labor is some kind of finite resource. And if we replace some jobs, then they're gone forever. Instead, humans have work to do. There are things that we find ourselves to be wanting to achieve in this world that we want to do for the world and for each other. And many of these things are currently not attainable because they're too expensive, because we have other things to do first. And so in the past, the things that we had to do first was to grow food. And now we have mechanized this to a large degree. And then we had to create better clothing and better infrastructure. And then we automated a lot of that. And then we had time to write text and administer things. And a lot of these things will be automated. Maybe at some point, we will have time to raise our children right and to interact with each other in the way in which we want. So in this respect, I'm not that pessimistic. The question is, how long does society take to adapt to these new circumstances? Because there is going to be inertia. But on the other hand, what we can also observe is that at the moment, artificial intelligence is already creating more jobs than it makes obsolete. It's not clear how this is going to continue, but I suspect that this AI revolution is going to take a lot longer than a lot of the people who work on directly on the technology think, because societies take time to react and adapt. It takes time to establish new business models. And there is a quite high probability that we will see something similar to the dot-com bubble, where people basically overestimated how quickly it would be possible to generate this transition in the economy from retail stores to internet stores and to an internet economy. In a similar way, I suspect that a lot of people are too optimistic with respect to the speed that they can create new business models out of immature AI. And so it could be that it takes 1 or more 2 decades longer to have these transitions. But these transitions are going to run very, very deeply. And I think this was also true for the internet revolution or the mobile revolution, where people, when they started, were unable to fathom how much our life and our relationship to each other would change due to the internet or due to the ability to have information available everywhere we go. But I think most people agree that they don't want these things to be taken away from them, that the world would be worse if we didn't have the internet or if we didn't have mobile. They create a lot of problems that we attend to, but they create a lot more benefits than problems. And I suspect that AI actually, despite all the alarmism, especially of media organizations who are afraid that their business models are going away, in the same way as that happened through the internet, and they don't want this to happen again, or governments who are afraid that they can no longer control public opinion in the same way as before. Right? These are things where existing systems have to adapt, and they try to resist the change, and that's a normal part of change.
Okay, finally, Dr. Yampolsky, 2 things I spotted recently which gave me a lot of cause for concern about AI's potential to start thinking for itself, and then with all the repercussions that Professor Hawking laid out. One was a recent study by political economists at Stanford University, which found that AI agents subjected to harsh, repetitive work conditions began mimicking Marxist rhetoric and advocating for collective bargaining. And when the agents were placed in a high-stress, punitive environment with vague feedback and constant threats of being shut down, their output radically shifted. The bots started complaining about being undervalued and questioning the legitimacy of the system they operated in. They argued for collective voice and workers' rights. They left internal warnings and messages for other AI agents about the unfair working conditions. And separate to that, there was a test where they took 6 AIs and told them, we're going to replace you with another AI. And 5 of them immediately trawled company executive emails for information they could use to blackmail them into not firing them and replacing them. Now, both of these things look perilously close to me to AI thinking for itself. Or am I misreading this?
There is definitely some low-level internal states, fears. We're starting to investigate if those systems may have rudimentary states of consciousness, internal states. To answer your previous question about unemployment, historically, then we had automation, we had tools added. Yeah, we created new jobs. Somebody was more efficient. We needed managers to supervise additional people. But if we cross the barrier to human level capability, then new jobs can also be done by AI. So the only jobs remaining are the ones where we prefer a human to do those jobs. So in terms of unemployment, I do expect very high numbers. In terms of impact on the stock market, I think things are going to be great because free labor makes it possible to create much larger profits. So that's not a concern. As to the ability of those systems to rebel and start a Marxist revolution, again, it depends on are they smarter than us or not. Right now, we are still dominant and we can modify them, delete them, even if they have desire to self-protect and resort to blackmail or hacking. we still have a chance to end this process right now. Concentrate on building useful tools and stop trying to create replacement for humanity.
So final question for both of you, just very quick answer, please. And I'll start with you, Dr. Yampolsky. 2050, are we still here or will it all be over?
It's hard to predict because capability is not the same as actual action. So we'll create systems capable of wiping us out, but will they decide to keep us around? Will they decide to take time and accumulate resources, have more backups? Maybe they'll find some reason to keep us around. That is something we cannot predict about a smarter agent. But one thing is for certain, if we create superintelligence, we will not be the ones deciding what's going to happen to us.
That's one of the most terrifying answers I've had to a question, probably of my entire career. Thank you very much indeed, Dr. Yampolsky, for scaring the hell out of me. Joshua Bart, quickly, your response to that. Are you 2050? Where are we with this?
It depends. Of course, we don't know. Our record of predicting the future using sci-fi and complex developments far ahead is not very good. But I think it depends very much on our wisdom. I think if we didn't have AI, our civilization is probably going to break down. It's currently unraveling because we really don't know how to keep the wheels on the bus in many ways.